Dawgs podcast with your hosts, Blake Reneker, Justin Charles, John Nye, and Josh All.
What's up, Browns fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Dawgs podcast presented by Omaha Steaks. Josh All alone with you today, coming to you with Week 3 PFF stat analysis from the Browns' big 27-3 victory over the Titans on Sunday. And I gotta tell you guys, it is a lot more fun putting together these stats analysis shows after a big win. Of course, after the Steelers loss, the stats were still very encouraging for the season, which led me to believe, like I more accurately predicted on last week's preview show for the Titans game, that the Browns were going to come out and get a big win over Tennessee. So before I dive into the stats from that game, I want to remind you guys, check us out on all the socials: TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And make sure if you're watching this video on YouTube, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, help us get closer and closer to that 10,000 subscriber mark. We are quickly approaching 8,000. We got to hit 8 before we can get to 10. Simple math, though a lot of people don't seem to understand simple math, especially on Twitter nowadays. Kind of like simple math that says the Browns defense is currently number 1 in the entire NFL. So I'm going to dive into all that stuff. I mean, I'm a little bit jazzed up this morning, just had my coffee, completely forgot my microphone and all my cables and the hookups that I needed for my home studio whenever I set everything up in the new studio. So bear with me where I'm recording through my iPhone microphone, so the audio might not be quite as crisp and clear today, but either way, I'm jazzed, I'm pumped. We coming off a big win. We got a big game coming up against Baltimore, which we'll dive into later this week. But for now, I want to talk about what we can take away from the Titans game. And before I dive into any of the numbers, we held the Tennessee Titans, a professional NFL offense, to just 68 yards passing for the entire game. The entire offense, an offense that has Derrick Henry, one of the NFL's absolute most elite running backs in recent memory. I mean, we talked about this on the recap show the other day. You don't talk about the Tennessee Titans without talking about Derrick Henry first and pretty much only when it comes to their offense. It's Derrick Henry. The offense runs through him, and it works. It works every season. These guys come out, they smash you in the mouth. They just run you down into the ground with Derrick Henry. And the Tennessee Titans offense didn't even eclipse 100 yards in this game. Total. I mean, you want to talk about defense? We mentioned this on the show. I don't remember seeing a defense like what the Browns are putting on the field. We've seen some very elite defenses in years past. There's some very notable ones. But what the Browns are doing right now, if they sustain this for the entirety of the season, could go down as one of the absolute top defensive performances over a single season in history. So let's look at the stats. Let's look at the numbers and break down what's going on with the Browns through 3 weeks, especially coming out of the Titans game. So for the Cleveland Browns as a team right now, like I said, it's not a secret anymore that this defense is elite. There are some very, very awesome, great numbers that this team is putting up. And then there's some numbers that aren't so good. We're going to talk about both. Let's talk about the good news first. So right now, our defense is number 1 in yards allowed at just 163.7 yards per game. The number 2 team in the NFL right now is the Buffalo Bills, and they're giving up 253. We are 90 yards per game better than the next best team in the league. Almost 100 yards better than the number 2 ranked team, number 2 ranked defense in the NFL. That's amazing. The Browns defense is number 1 in pass yards allowed, 111.7 a game. And that average includes a game against Joe Burrow, who is the NFL's highest paid quarterback right now, one of the best young quarterbacks in the league. And yet the Browns are still first in the NFL at passing yards allowed per game. We are number 2 in rush yards allowed per game. Just 52 rushing yards allowed per game. Now, the Philadelphia Eagles are number 1 with 48.3, and the 49ers are third at 53. So we are right in the mix with the top 3 defenses against the run in the NFL. The 4th best team, the Titans, who we just played, they're giving up 69.3. And so, the Browns came into that game, and we actually put up 78 yards of rushing. Very low for us. We came into the game averaging 202 a game. We only put up 78, but the Titans defense was holding opposing offenses to just 65 yards a game. So to put up 78, we bested their average right now. Yes, much lower than our average on offense, but still not a terrible performance considering who we were facing. Another number 1 for our defense. We are number 1 in points allowed per game. Just 10.7 points per game. And I think I put this stat out there on Twitter, and I mentioned it on the show the other day. But our defense, that's as a team right there. So the Browns defense, the Browns as a team, whatever you want to say, they're number 1 in points allowed. So just 10.7 a game. But our defensive unit itself is actually only responsible for allowing 5 points per game, 5 earned points per game by the opposing offense. That's it. 5. The other 5.7 points that the team is allowing actually is attributed to our offensive turnovers, which leads me right into the bad news. The Browns are the 3rd worst team in the NFL in turnover differential. Our defense has forced just 2 turnovers on the season, but our offense has committed 7 giveaways. We mentioned when we were talking about the Steelers game after the fact, we said that if the Browns just take a knee for 3 straight plays and punt in the 4th quarter of that game and put our defense on the field, we probably win. We probably win. Our offense was an absolute total liability in that game, and it's the only reason the Steelers were able to pull off the victory against us on Monday night last week. Our defense had them shut down. Aside from that 71-yard broken play from George Pickens, they did nothing on offense. They couldn't. Nobody can right now. Our offense directly led to the Steelers getting that victory. So if you look at that, 7 giveaways in 3 games, that's terrible. Only the Minnesota Vikings with 9 and the Washington Commanders with 8 have more giveaways through the first 3 games than the Cleveland Browns offense. So the good news, if you want to look at the positive side of that stat, if the Browns can just clean this up on offense, we are easily a contender this season because this defense is number 1. And Blake talked about how our defense is near the bottom of the league in turnovers, but yet we're number 1 overall and allowing the fewest yards and the fewest points per game. Why? Why are we the number 1 defense whenever we're toward the bottom of the league in turnovers generated by the defense? It's because opposing offenses don't have enough time to even commit turnovers. Quarterbacks are essentially catching the snap and throwing the ball. Catch, throw, as quickly as possible. They're getting the ball out quick. We saw it with Joe Burrow in week 1. It was quick passes out to the flash. Just as soon as he got the snap, gone. Kenny Pickett was doing the same thing. And now Ryan Tannehill had no choice but to catch and throw. And they're throwing the ball before receivers are even partway through their routes. They're not open. Nothing's happening downfield. So balls are getting thrown out of bounds. Balls are getting overthrown, underthrown. Our cornerbacks, our secondary doesn't even really necessarily have time to turn around to make a play for a turnover because the ball's already out of bounds being thrown away. The pressure rate that our defense is generating right now is creating 3 and outs very consistently. So rather than turnovers happening for this defense, we're just forcing 3 and outs on pretty much every single drive. So 3 and outs right now are the Browns' turnovers. So like I said, just clean up the giveaways on offense. Kevin Stefanski, please. This is your unit. Come on. We cannot have this. I put in my notes here. You can't have the number 1 defense in the NFL and pair that with an offense that's number 3 overall in giveaways. That's a recipe for disaster, and that's a recipe for absolute frustration for the team, for fans, for everybody. It's horrible. All you have to do is clean up that. Just quit giving the ball away on offense. Elijah Moore, dude, come on, hold on to the ball. You can't get stripped like that. Deshaun, you got to feel the pressure in the pocket. No more of these tip pass interception things. We got to stop fumbling the ball. ball security, and we clean that stuff up, our defense will start, generating more turnovers, and this team is going to go pretty far this year just based on those two things alone. So now let's look at the offense. So right now the offense is actually number 10. They're 10th overall in the league in yards per game at 366.3. Top 10 offense. Honestly, in the NFL, what more can you ask for? You get the number 1 defense in yards allowed and number 10 offense in yards generated. That's pretty sweet. Just cut out the freaking giveaways. We are number 11 in points per game, 24.3. So if you look at those numbers, think about that. We gain 366.3 yards per game. We allow 163, I think it was, 0.3 yards per game. We gain over 200 yards more a game than we give up. We are outgaining opponents by an average of 200 yards a game. That's unheard of. That is absolutely incredible. And not only that, but when it comes to points scored, we actually are outscoring our opponents by an average of 2 touchdowns. 14 points a game more than what we're giving up. That is an historic rate right there. And if this is sustainable, if we can keep this up, and again, this is with the number 10 in yards offense, number 11 in points per game. So we don't even have to be any better than that. We could even drop down the middle of the pack, be like 15, 16 in the league, and with the number 1 defense, we're still going to win 90% of our games. So these are incredible numbers that, we will continue to assess as the season goes on. We'll see how they, do they sustain? Do they start to drop? Does the margin start to shrink? We'll see. But right now, it's pretty damn impressive. Offense, we are just 21st in the league in passing at 205.7 yards a game. So not so great in the passing game, though. It was very encouraging to see Deshaun Watson have such a great game against the Titans, and we'll dive into his stats next. Our rushing offense, despite the tough matchup against Tennessee, like I mentioned earlier, we're still number 4 in the entire league in rushing at 160.7 a game. So that game right there knocked us down from 202 down to 160, but yet we're still 4th overall in the NFL. So that's pretty good. Glad to see that. I want to talk about special teams, though, here real quick, because we have not really talked about special teams much. Special teams, we have punted, we have 6 punts that have landed inside the 20. That's tied for 4th most in the NFL. So that's pretty good. Our punting game, in that metric right there, pretty impressive. We've had just 1 punt that's resulted in a touchback, which means, the team gets the ball out at the 20. Now this is where things kind of start to fall off, where I think we need to improve. We need to work on our punt return game. We've returned just 5 punts on the season in 3 games for an average of 10.2 yards per return. That is middle of the pack in the NFL. To give you some measures to base that on, Cincinnati and Seattle are averaging around 4 yards a return, so they're at the bottom of the league. Whereas the Buffalo Bills are number 1 in the league at 33 yards per return. So 10.2 yards a return. It's not terrible. Like I said, it's middle of the pack, but it is something we need to improve on. In terms of the net punt average yardage, 43.8 yards. That's, again, middle of the pack. If you want more context, the Seattle Seahawks lead the league at 51.1 yards net per punt, and the Indianapolis Colts are at the bottom, 37.1. So we traded for Dustin Hopkins. We cut Cade York, said your kicking struggles are going to really hurt us this year. We can't afford it. We bring in and trade for Dustin Hopkins from the Los Angeles Chargers. Through 3 games, Hopkins is 7 of 8 on his field goals. He has a long of 55 yards. That is the 4th longest field goal in the NFL so far this season. That's pretty cool. We are not, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing. This is actually a pretty good thing in terms of our offensive efficiency. We're not kicking short field goals. We have not attempted a single field goal attempt from 1 to 29 yards. So 29 yards and into the end zone, haven't attempted a single field goal. we've attempted just one field goal from 1 to 39 yards. Just one. Otherwise, we have been scoring touchdowns. 4 of 5 of the field goals that Hopkins has made have been from 40 to 49 yards. And his other 2, he's 2 of 2 from 50 plus, which was the range where he was 50% coming in, for his career coming into this year. So now he's not going to be 100% at 50 plus for the whole season. But through 3 games, 2 of 2, those have been key field goals, and they're helping the offense continue to stay on top of their opponents. He's made all 4 of his extra points. So far, Dustin Hopkins has been everything that we've hoped he could be when we traded for him. We've talked about Donovan Peoples-Jones in the punt return game. He's returned just 5 punts for only 26 yards, 5.2 in average, tied for 6th fewest return yards and the 4th lowest average in the league. So again, the punt return game, I mentioned it earlier, mention it again, is something that we really do need to improve on. So all right, so now let's look at Deshaun Watson's stats from the Titans game. But before I dive into these, Browns fans here in Ohio, I want to make sure you guys know DraftKings has upped their sign-up offer to kick off this football season. New users can place a bet of $5 to instantly claim $200 in bonus bets, plus up to $150 back in bonus bets if your team loses. All you have to do is sign up using our code, THEDAWGS, all one word, when you create your account. If you've been considering signing up for DraftKings, make sure you use our code, THEDAWGS, to maximize your first bets. This offer is only available for new customers who are 21 years and older and physically present in Ohio. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Check the episode description for the full terms of the offer to see if you qualify. All right, guys, let's talk about this. Let's talk about Deshaun Watson. Now, we were hard on Deshaun Watson after, we especially after the Steelers game. It was not a great game. It was not very pretty whatsoever. After the Bengals game, it was a rain game. The weather wasn't great. First game back, all that stuff. He showed flashes. Steelers game had some plays where he showed flashes, but overall not a great performance whatsoever. This was it. This was the game that I was hoping for, that Browns fans everywhere we just needed to see it. And I said it last week, Deshaun Watson could not come out and have a great game. Not just a good game, a great game against the Tennessee Titans, who were they were the 5th worst passing defense in the NFL coming into the week. Then it's just never going to happen. You have to be able to excel against defenses that suck against what you're good at, which was passing. So Deshaun Watson, 27 of 33 for 81.8, almost 82% completion percentage, his highest by far with the Browns. But his adjusted completion percentage, which I talk about all the time, is I'd rather look at the adjusted completion percentage for a quarterback than the actual, because, completion percentages are affected by drop passes, by throwaways, which, could be a great decision on a play, but it counts as an incompletion. Spike balls to stop the clock, all that stuff goes into incompletions and completion percentage, but adjusted completion percentage, Deshaun Watson was 90.3. Damn near perfect. He threw for 289 yards on a defense that was giving up 305 yards per game to quarterbacks. And we all know, we talked about it on the recap show, Deshaun would have been well over that 305-yard mark, and he would have had a 3rd touchdown if the officials didn't steal away a beautifully thrown, amazing catch to Amari Cooper on the sideline that honestly he did take it for a touchdown essentially. But he was called out of bounds even though he had, a 1.5 feet between him and the sideline. Whatever. It happened. The referee apologized. Whoop-de-freaking-do. That does nothing for us. And we're just going to have to continue to deal with piss poor officiating. But as long as we can continue to beat opponents by a margin of 14 points, we take the referees completely out of the game. And honestly, if you've been a Browns fan for a long time, you know that we usually do have to battle the refs. We have to go against our opponents. Usually we have to go against ourselves, like we saw in the Steelers game. And we have to go against the refs, like we saw in the Steelers game and the Titans game. You beat opponents by an average margin of 14 points, you eliminate the referees from the game completely. So I think that's what we just need to do. Just keep that up. That would be very nice to see. Deshaun Watson, back to him. Just one turnover-worthy play in the entire game, which was that stupid backward throw pitch pass thing to Elijah Moore when he was getting sacked. Good God. I hope we never see anything like that ever again from Deshaun Watson. And I think he realized it because, like we said on the show, it seemed like he seemed real shaky early in the game, like those first couple drives, and it seemed like that mistake right there kind of snapped him out of his funk, saying, what am I doing? That was totally stupid. And it was. But the rest of the game was absolutely phenomenal. One turnover-worthy play that was the fourth lowest, which is good, obviously. Fourth lowest in week 3 among quarterbacks. Though I do need to look into this a little more because PFF actually has Trevor Lawrence and Russell Wilson with a lower turnover-worthy play percentage than Watson, but they both threw interceptions, so I'm not really sure how that comes into play. Time to throw for Deshaun Watson, still over 3 for this game. It was 3.08. I think I said he was averaging 3.06 for the season. It would be really nice to see him be able to get that time to throw, snap to pass under 3 seconds, but that 3.06 average isn't just for Cleveland, that's for his career. I'm not counting on it. It's not his game. He's not a get the ball out quick kind of quarterback. He likes to go downfield. He likes to get bigger plays. And, we're just going to have to continue to deal with him holding the ball a little bit longer than we like, probably taking a couple more sacks than he probably needs to each game. But again, we need to remember that is not a Cleveland-specific thing. This is not a new part of his game. This is not him playing quarterback worse than he did in Houston. It's on par. This is exactly what he did. I said it was 3.06, I believe, was his average in Houston, and he took, I think it was 3.27 sacks a game over his career in Houston, which is basically what he's averaging here in Cleveland. Deshaun Watson had a 123.4 passer rating. That was the 4th highest in week 3 behind Tua, Mahomes, and Justin Herbert. And, this is what Browns fans and the Browns team expected when we brought in Deshaun Watson. Top 5 in QB rating. These are the games, these are the performances that we expect to see more often than not. And I hope that this is just game 1 of many going forward. When Deshaun was kept in a clean pocket, he was 23 of 25 for 248 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, obviously, that kind of stat sounds, no kidding, he was really good from a clean pocket. Not all quarterbacks are. He hasn't always been. I'm telling you, if you're kept in a clean pocket, if you can almost be 100% on your completions, that's going to win you most games. When he was under pressure, 4 of 8 for just 41 yards. So again, because of the low success whenever a quarterback's under pressure, that's why it's even more important that you be as close to perfect as you can be from a clean pocket. Whenever the Browns ran play action, they did it 13 times. He completed 9 passes for 112 yards and a touchdown. No play action this week was so much better than what it was the first 2 weeks. He was 18 of 20 for 177 and a score. So this next stat is a big one that it is kind of bucking the trend from what we've seen in weeks 1 and 2 with Deshaun. On deep passes of 20 or more yards, he was 4 of 5, 80% for 116 yards and 2 touchdowns. His medium range passing, 3 of 4 for 39 yards, and on short passes, 12 of 13 for 77 yards. This is the perfect example of Deshaun Watson. Finally, we've been asking for this. Take what the defense is giving you. And in this game, he had the opportunity to go downfield, and when he did, he hit them. And when the defense was giving him the intermediate range passes, he hit them. And whenever he needed to dump it off or go short or try to pick up, quick yards to get a first down or whatever the case may have been, he hit them. He did it. And that's what we need to see on a continuing basis from Deshaun Watson. This episode is brought to you by Omaha Steaks. Browns fans, fall is in the air, and that means we're looking forward to more of these crisp mornings, falling leaves, and more sweater weather. But more importantly, this is the perfect time for all of your fall grilling and tailgating, because right now the Browns have the number 1 defense in the NFL, and to really properly tailgate for that kind of performance, you got to have the number one meats available that you can possibly get, and that's Omaha Steaks. Omaha Steaks has all of your fall cravings covered, and right now you can get 50% off site-wide during the Omaha Steaks semi-annual sale. That's 50% off all your favorite tender, juicy, extra-aged steaks like their butcher's cut filet mignons. Go to omahasteaks.com today and use code DAWGS, DAWGS, when you check out, and you'll get not just 50% off of their site-wide sale, but you get an extra $30 off your order with our code. With Omaha Steaks, the possibilities are endless flavor, and endless value on incredible entrees, scrumptious size, decadent desserts, and more, all of them 50% off during the semi-annual sale, and every single bite is backed by their 100% unconditional guarantee. Go to omahasteaks.com right now, shop all of your delicious favorites for half the price. Don't forget, enter code DAWGS, DAWGS, when you check out for an extra $30 off your order. But you better hurry, this sale is only available for a limited time. Minimum purchase may apply. So now we'll move from Deshaun Watson into the Browns offensive line. And I think the best place to start with this conversation is fourth round rookie Dawand Jones. Dawand Jones has been awesome for a fourth round rookie stepping in to the starting right tackle position for Jack Conklin. Yeah, I don't think we could have asked for any more than this. Jones played on 41 pass blocking snaps, allowed 0 pressures against the Titans, 100% pass blocking efficiency. Now, I talked about that last week. Pass blocking efficiency, you want your offensive lineman at 100% or as close to it as possible, because anything other than 100% means you gave up pressures. Even if it was just one pressure, you're off of that 100%. So most linemen are going to be in the 90s, but like I said, you got to think of it not in terms of, well, 90% is still like an A. No. You got to think of it as 91% would be like 1, 95% would be 5, and like 100% is 10. So it's on a scale of like, let's just go 1 to 10. You want a 10. Dawand Jones got a 10. In 3 games so far this season, Dawand Jones has played on 114 pass blocking snaps. He's allowed just 5 total pressures, 1 hit on the quarterback, and 0 sacks. You heard me. 0 sacks given up by Dawand Jones, the fourth round rookie, and he went up against TJ Watt in week 2. Now, I know a lot of these Steeler fans, Browns haters, whatever on Twitter are saying, oh, well, he gave up the sack to TJ Watt whenever he became the sack leader for the Steelers, blah, 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 blah. Go watch the play. No, he did not. TJ Watt rushed off the right side. Dawand Jones blocked with him, pushed him back past Deshaun Watson into the backfield. Deshaun Watson steps up in the pocket and then breaks off to the left, trying to scramble, and TJ Watt ends up coming around, getting the sack on the far left side of the line. It was not a sack given up by Dawand Jones. So, and PFF didn't credit Dawand Jones with that sack. Neither did NFL or ESPN. So, I mean, you can sit there and say that Dawand Jones gave up that sack to TJ Watt, but the stat keepers don't believe so. And just watch the play. It was not a sack given up by Dawand Jones. So 0 sacks through 3 games. Pretty darn good for this rookie. His pass blocking grade so far on the season, 74.1. Number 1 among rookie tackles so far this season. So of all the tackles drafted this year and that are playing already, Dawand Jones is the best, and he was a rookie coming out of the 4th round. Now, his run blocking still is not being graded very high. It's just a 54.9 this week against the Titans. But if you look at the run blocking grades overall, it's still pretty rough for the Browns. Like I said, Dawand Jones, 54.9. Ethan Posick was the highest graded lineman at 63.6. And then you got Jed Wills down at 57.4. Bitonio even lower at 54.5, and Wyatt Teller was clear down at 49.4. So to give you some context, I mean, Dawand Jones was the 3rd highest graded lineman in run blocking this week for the Browns. The run blocking grades, I list those because there's not a whole lot of run blocking stats like we've talked about in the last 2 weeks for the offensive linemen. But if you want to break it down, the way they've been blocking, run attempts to the right side of the line, so to Teller and Jones, 10 attempts for 45 yards this game, 4.5 yards a carry. Now, in the first 2 games, we saw predominantly runs to the left and the runs to the left side were more successful than runs to the right. But in this game, runs to the left side, we tried 15 times, which again was more than the right side, but we only got 20 yards going that direction, just 1.3 yards a carry. So again, the Tennessee Titans are an excellent top of the league run defense. And overall, I think the Browns handled it pretty well. We were still able to push and, outgain the average that they were giving up. So to round out the offensive line pass blocking, DeJuan Jones and Wyatt Teller were both at 100% efficiency, means they gave up 0 pressures, like I said. Joel Bitonio gave up 3 pressures. Ethan Posig gave up just 1 pressure. It resulted in a sack, though. Jedrick Wills, 3 pressures. He gave up 2 hurries, 1 hit, no sacks, which is good, but I still saw plenty of plays. I've seen the highlights, the clips on Twitter where Jed Wills just gets beat and stands there. It's still happening, and unless the Browns go out and make a move for another tackle, this is just something that, we're going to have to deal with all season. And we're going to complain about it. We're going to gripe on Sundays when we see it happening. But at the end of the day, we're just going to have to deal with it because Jed Wills is the starting left tackle. Jed Wills gives very poor effort, and I don't think either of those two things are going to change. So let's round out the offensive side of the ball, talking about the wide receivers. Through 3 weeks, Amari Cooper is 20th overall in the NFL in separation. He's averaging 2 yards of separation per target. His true catch rate is 90.9%. That's 42nd overall. True catch rate is based only on catchable targets, so not, again, throwaways or passes that are thrown clear over the receiver's head or whatnot. Amari Cooper is currently receiving a 25% target share in the offense. Elijah Moore is 16th overall in the NFL with 2.19 yards of separation on average. His true catch rate is just 66.7%. That's 89th overall among wide receivers. And he is also getting a 25% target share. So 50% of the targets are going to Amari Cooper and Elijah Moore, which is what we expected coming into the season. And I don't see this trend changing whatsoever. I think that the goal is to get Elijah Moore as involved as possible. And obviously Amari Cooper, he's leading the AFC North in receiving. He is the clear-cut number 1 receiver on this team. He's, aside from Jamar Chase finally having a good game on Monday night for the Bengals, Amari Cooper's been the best receiver in the AFC North, hands down. The Cleveland Browns wide receivers absolutely fleeced the Titans cornerbacks for 15 catches on 17 targets, 182 total yards against the corners. They could not stop Elijah Moore in the slot. He was 9 of 9. 9 targets, 9 receptions. That's awesome. 49 yards. That's pretty low for that many targets and receptions. But again, he was being targeted very short. He's picking up first downs. So other than his strip fumble that he had an excellent game, and that's what we want to see more of from him. And David Njoku, again, in the short area, he was 4 of 4 for 20 yards, so the Browns absolutely dominated the Titans pretty much on every level of the secondary in the passing game, which, again, is what we expected because the Titans were so bad against the pass, and Deshaun Watson proved that he is still a great quarterback, and when the defense is giving it to him, he'll take it. All right, it's time to shift to the defensive side of the ball, and the defense, of course, number 1 in the league. Like I've said, so exciting to watch. Before I dive into the secondary, I want to remind you guys, if you want to join our Discord and you want to interact with us and engage and talk Browns football during the games on Sundays, it is a great community of diehard Browns fans. And, if you're somewhere watching the game, no one wants to watch a Browns game alone because you want to complain, you want to cheer, you want to cry, you want to moan, you want to go crazy. It's no fun to do that by yourself. So if you want Browns fans to watch the game with, get into our Discord, join the Dawgs.com, become an official Dog Pack member. You get after hours episode every week. Like I said, the Discord. The Discord is the main thing right now just because we're in season and watching Browns games with so many other Browns fans, bouncing, your reactions off of other guys. It's so much fun in there. Guys, gals, from all over the country, all over the world too. Doesn't matter where you are, you can be in our Discord and you can watch Browns games with other Browns fans. It's a ton of fun. And one thing that you'll get to watch, like I said, is this defense. So let's talk about the secondary. Denzel Ward was targeted 7 times. These numbers are kind of interesting because, well, it makes sense why Denzel Ward had 7 targets come his way, because he was primarily going to be on DeAndre Hopkins, who they're going to target the most. So when Denzel Ward was targeted 7 times, he gave up just 3 catches for only 11 yards on the game. And DeAndre Hopkins, one of the best receivers in the NFL. Sure, he might be a little older now. Maybe he has finally lost his step. But again, this is a guy Browns fans were clamoring for and couldn't really understand why we didn't sign, whenever he ended up going to Tennessee. But here we go. 0 catches for 0 yards against Denzel Ward. Martin Emerson has been a stud for the Browns this year. He was targeted 4 times, gave up 2 catches for 31 yards. He gave up just 1 catch to DeAndre Hopkins for 26 yards. So a big play to Hopkins, but it was just 1. And that was encouraging to see. And the other big play from Hopkins was a 17-yard catch that came against our 5th-round rookie, Cameron Mitchell, who was filling in for the injured Greg Newsome. We'll probably see him again this Sunday. I don't think we're going to see Newsome until after the bye week. Mitchell was targeted just 3 times for 3 catches, 56 yards. And again, 17 of those yards came to DeAndre Hopkins. And Mitchell was also the cornerback responsible for the big play to Chris Moore down the sideline for 33 yards. So Cameron Mitchell, like I said, 5th-round rookie. He's playing cornerback, which is a tough position to play in the NFL. The NFL is set up against corners in favor of quarterbacks and receivers. And not only is he going up against NFL receivers, but DeAndre Hopkins, one of the best receivers in the NFL. Like I said, even if he's lost a step, he's still one of the better receivers in the league. And nearly 60% of the yards that Mitchell gave up for the entire game came on that 1 play to Chris Moore. Otherwise, he played very well. I was impressed with Cameron Mitchell. He allowed, just like I mentioned, just 1 catch for 17 yards to DeAndre Hopkins. His coverage grade was the lowest on the team per PFF, down at 46.9. He was only targeted those 3 times on 28 pass snaps. And if you take away the big catch by Chris Moore, Cameron Mitchell allowed just 2 catches for 23 yards in the game. If you're going to give me that from a rookie cornerback, I will take it every week. Grant Delpit was targeted twice, allowed 2 catches for just 8 yards. Juan Thornhill, I'm talking safeties now. Juan Thornhill, 4 targets, allowed just 1 catch, 0 yards. Our secondary was, again, locked down. And why are they able to lock down so well? Well, let's look at our defensive front. Myles Garrett, 9 pressures generated in this game. 4 hurries, 1 hit on the quarterback, and 4 sacks. That's according to PFF. Like I said last week, PFF does not give half sacks. Myles actually had 3.5 sacks, but they credit him with a full 4. So overall, we did sack Ryan Tannehill 5 times, 3.5 by Myles. Alex Wright had a sack, and Obo Okoronkwo had the other half of Myles' sack. Alex Wright, Maurice Hurst, Zadarius Smith all had 2 pressures each. We had 17 total pressures for the game. The Titans played 32 pass block snaps against the Browns. So 17 out of 32. We generated pressure on the quarterback on 53% of our opportunities. Now, if you look at their offensive line, their left tackle, I talked about him coming into the game. Andre Dillard allowed 3 sacks in week 2 to the Los Angeles Chargers. And again, he gave up 3 sacks to the Browns. And as bad as Jed Wills is playing on our offensive line, guys, it could be worse, because Andre Dillard has given up 6 sacks in the last 2 games, 16 total pressures allowed on the season. Jed Wills this year has given up just 2 sacks and 12 pressures. So while he is not the best left tackle by any stretch, he's also not the worst. So we want him to play better. We need Jed Wills to play better. And just be thankful that he's not Andre Dillard. The Browns defense as a whole were only charged with 5 missed tackles in the game. The Titans had 14, almost 3 times as many. And if you look at the season, we only have 21 missed tackles charged to us on this season over 3 games of 7 a game. Tennessee had 14 just in this game. So the Browns with 21 on the season, San Francisco and Philly, the other two top defenses with us. San Francisco has 18 missed tackles on the year and Philadelphia has just 15. So I just want to put 21 missed tackles in perspective with the other good defenses to show that while we have a few more than San Francisco and a few more than Philly, we're still at the top of the league in terms of the lowest missed tackles total. And I just want to mention this guy, Justin brought him up on the reaction show, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Dude, we talked about you being a possible Pro Bowl candidate at the beginning of the season. If you just continue to play your style of football and you do your thing behind this defensive line, that's exactly what we're seeing. He was the leader in run defense grade at 82.3. He had 6 tackles, 4 solo, 2 assists. He had 3 stops per PFF, and stops are tackles that create a failure for the offense. So we're not talking just open field tackles or, bring a guy down by his shoestrings on the sideline or whatever. He's actually making tackles that are setting the offense back. And that's what we want to see out of our linebackers. We talked about Anthony Walker almost had a pick 6. Our entire defense, every single person at every single position is playing absolutely out of their minds, max potential being executed, and it is absolutely a blast to watch each and every Sunday. So let me know what you guys think about the stats from week 3. What did I miss? What other stats did you guys see or come across that you thought were awesome or that, we need to talk about? Most of these numbers are absolutely great and encouraging for the Browns. Turnovers, differential, giveaways by our offense, those types of things. Our passing offense still needs some work. There are definitely some negatives no team is a finished product. No team is done getting better. My football coach in high school, you always used to say you either get better or you get worse. You never stay the same. And right now, the Browns just need to continue to get better on defense because they can't just stay the same based on that. And our offense needs to get better. The defense needs to get better by a smaller margin than the offense does. Let's just put it that way. But it can be done. I think eliminating giveaways on offense is one of the easier things to do because it's all about ball security. And, if we get a little bit better play out of Jed Wills, just a little bit more effort, dude, just a little bit, we're going to be just fine. So drop your takes, comments, feedback down in the comments section. If you're listening on audio, we appreciate you guys. Everything you guys do helps the show. Your views, your audio listens, if you subscribe to the show, if you subscribe to the podcast, the audio, everything you guys do to interact with the show helps us continue to grow, helps get us in front of more Browns fans, and that's what we're trying to do. We love you guys. We love the Browns, whether they make us completely angry or totally ecstatic, doesn't matter. We love this team. We want to keep watching success. And right now, things are looking up. Join us later this week for the Ravens preview. And until we talk to you guys then, let's go Browns.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Dawgs Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Twitter at the Dawgs Podcast. Get your thoughts on the show at thedawgspodcast.com.